Whenever I was living in Puyallup, Washington, after I had moved out of the city of Seattle, and I was living with a very dear friend of mine, there was one night where, I had passed the whole day completely awake, and it was a rather taxing day, if I remember correctly. I was just doing a lot of things throughout the day, and I was very tired by the end. And when I finally laid to rest, it started off like this. I went to sleep, and at some point in my sleep, I eventually start to realize I'm sleeping and dreaming. And when I open my eyes inside of the dream, I'm in front of a block, a stone wall. And this stone wall, I can't really see it. It's in shades of different black. And there is a hole, two square, almost peg-like holes that I can see through. And so what I see through the wall, peeping forward, is a theater with rows of seats and a big screen at the very end. And I am just peeping through the wall at the theater. And at first, the things that I begin to see, it's a flash. And from the flash, I then start to see stars gathering, accumulating, gyrating, whirling, and see them form, large, ovular, gigantic, and then they explode. And from there, I start to see the history of the universe play out. I start to see the galaxies and the quasars and the generations of stars that die and are born and that keep doing that. The nebulas forming into new fresh stars that will then become giants and blow up and form black holes that will eventually pool together to make galaxies. And eventually, as time goes on and I'm watching this, it focuses. And in focusing, it turns towards the solar system. And I start to see the history of the solar system, where first it's the cloud of gas, and then the sun forms, and then the planets form, and then they're crashing together. Asteroids, lava, gas, the elements coalescing and separating, and eventually forming the orbits of the planets that we know. And here things start to speed up. Already time had passed very fast, but here, as if in some way faster, I start to see the history of Earth. And in seeing the history of Earth, I see the Cambrian. I see the Hadean period first, where the world is lava, and eventually water comes through some means. It is unclear how it comes about, whether it's from the world itself or through comets or through some smashing thing. But water appears in the world. And as it goes, the history of life plays out, wherein I see the different periods, and I see the dinosaurs, and I see the giant mammals, and I see the continents separating and crashing together, the earthquakes, the deluges, the volcanic eruptions, the hurricanes, the animals hunting each other, or eating plants, and changing. And things that started to not make sense began to happen, where some animals became other animals, and flowed into other animals, and as if history was starting to get churned, but it wasn't that violent yet. And then finally, humanity. And when it arrived at humanity, it played out starting with Sumer, the Indus River Valley, and the first civilizations, the nomadic peoples. And from there, it just played out as human history as we know it, or at least as it's written, in my understanding of it. I saw Great Egypt, all the kingdoms. I saw Europe with its Neanderthals disappear over time, and the first tribes that went there. I saw the people of the steppe learning how to make chariots and the wheel and domesticating the horse. I saw the Chinese start the irrigation systems from the Yellow River, or building the irrigation systems. I saw the Mayans and build their temples, and then all those civilizations fell. And this same thing repeated, where civilizations grew and fell, grew and fell, grew and fell. And it always, the pace of what I was seeing kept going faster and faster and faster, even though time was moving at a speed where all the images were barely perceptible, as if a car that's speeding too fast, or some kind of object is speeding too fast, where you can just see the figure and then it's gone. But things were replaying, and like I said before, time was churning, and I started to see mixtures that didn't make any sense. I saw Genghis Khan's conquests alongside, well, the Cro-Magnon tribes. But eventually, it all plays out. It plays out into the modern day. And whenever it plays out into the modern day, I stop. And I almost half wake up. Because I wake up and I realize that, I don't move or anything. I have this conscious thought that I want to continue the dream. And I close my eyes again. I go back into the dream, and I'm facing the stone wall, but the stone wall no longer has the two pegs, or the two holes, it has one hole. And I look at this hole again, I see the same theater, but the movie is starting over. And when the movie starts over, it doesn't start at the beginning. It starts at the beginning of history, our history. And it starts to play out rather ridiculously and very intensely from the onset. I get images from all different points in history, from all different peoples. And I start to see also scenes from other periods in geographical history. I start to see the Ordovician mixed with the Jurassic, the Cretaceous mixed with the Cambrian, the Hadean mixed with modern day. And then I start to see animals that are mixed together that don't make any sense either. I see goats with the heads of giraffes. I see giraffes with the bodies of tigers and the giraffe neck. I see elephant tusks on a warthog, and I remember quite clearly seeing a manatee with a narwhal horn. And the same thing with humans. I saw Mongolians wearing pharaohs' headdresses. I saw Aztec warriors wearing the garb of 16th century English royal wear or royal regalia. I saw Siberian natives wearing nothing truly, but having the paints of the Native American tribes, of the Cherokees, or the war paints. And the mixtures of these things got more and more intense as history in this vortex, got more and more mixed up. And at one point it was so intense and the dream so bright, and I had to open my eyes again, as if you close your eyes when you're looking at the sun because it's too bright. It was the opposite. I opened my eyes into the real world in order to get out of the light of the dream. And then when I went back into the dream had stopped. The mixture had stopped. And now it was just absurdity. I looked back at the movie, and when I looked back at the movie, it was images of things that didn't make any sense, things that never existed, of unicorns and cimerics, of cyclops and aliens, or at least gray aliens, of mythology all put together and just made into an absolute mess. And then finally, I again opened my eyes and closed them, and now there was no wall, there was no theater, there was a TV. And the TV had these words. It was black, and it had these words that I had a very hard time trying to perceive, trying to see, and I had to focus, I had to stress my brain in order to be able to just focus on the words because they were warping consistently. I could feel the rapid eye movements almost. And eventually it says, "So, what do you think?" And when I see that, at first I'm confused, and I look away and I look again. It says, "Do you think this is how this all played out?" And at this point, I'm a bit perturbed, almost frightened, confused. And then I open my eyes, and I think I'm in the real world. And I look to my right, and in the room that I was in, there was a very large window that looked out into a forest. And when I look to the right, I see some figures standing there. And keep in mind, I'm on the second story. And this figure that's standing there is garbed in black. It's a reaper. And when I see this reaper, at first, I'm frightened. But then, it starts to dance. The reaper takes off its hood, and just this pale nothingness, a pale glow for a head, for a face. And it just begins to dance. And to dance ridiculously. It starts to shrink, and then it starts to grow. It becomes giant to where I can only see the garb, and then it shrinks again to where I can see the whole figure. And then it shrinks even more to where I can't see it at all, and then appears again, larger than ever, larger in the distance. And then, finally, the last image I saw was is having a good time dancing, spinning around, before finally I woke up.